I'm calling my few minutes between the davening and my formal teaching Judaism 101. We may go back and rename all of this because I'm realizing one thing I'm doing is called, I'm glad I cleared that up. There are many things that people think about the Bible that are actually not exactly true. It might be deep, it might not be, it might just be information, Judaism 101-esque, and it might be actually quite philosophic. As I shared last time, a couple of times, one thing I wanted people to know is that the human beings who lived in the Garden of Eden, their names were not, or his name was not Adam. It was, Adam means the species, the human being. Related to the word dam, which means blood, Adama, which means earth. The Adam is referred to in Hebrew as Ha-Adam, the human being. So I don't want to change our colloquial, the colloquial way that we speak about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Creation, but just not, no, that's not what the Bible says. The Bible says the human being. Now, as I just gave a little introduction last time, during the entire story of the Garden of Eden, the woman is called his woman, Ishto, or Ha-Isha, the woman, not called Eve. In fact, the first time we have a mention of Chava is at the very end of the story in chapter 3, verse 20. Genesis chapter 3, verse 20. In chapter 3, verse 20, it says, Vaikra ha-Adam, the human being, called Shem Ishtu Chava. He called his wife Chava, ki hi haita em kol chai. He called her Chava, which is connected to the word chai, because she's the mother of all life. This seems to be out of place because she hasn't born any children yet. So why would he call her Chava if she had not yet born children? Which takes us to my topic for today. And this is really, if you've never really studied this before in the original and accepted what you're seeing, it's quite stunning. We're just going to read one line from the next chapter, and chapter 4, verse 1. Chapter 4, verse 1. Veha Adam, the human being, yada et Chava ishto, knew, and remember when we have the word yada, this takes us back to the Eitz Da'at, the tree of knowledge. But now we know that the Hebrew word dot has a sense of sexuality. So do we rename the tree of knowledge at some level into the tree of sexual intercourse? It's fair because it says Adam, the human being, knew his wife. So again, we have to dispense with the idea that some kind of sapience or wisdom. It might mean sexual knowledge, and then we would have to expand sexual knowledge into some other philosophic dimension. That's for another time. I'll cover that at another session. And it says, Vatahar, and she became pregnant, Vatelet et Cain. So the name is Cain, not Cain, Cain. And it says, Vatomer, and she says, Kaniti ish et Adonai. Kaniti ish et Adonai. Okay? So what does this mean? The Hebrew word liknot has two distinct meanings. I think they're homonyms. They're actually, I don't think one is related to the other. Kana can mean acquire. Kana can also mean to create. For example, God is called Koneh Shamayim Va'aretz, the Koneh of the heavens and the earth, which does not mean acquired. Acquired from whom? So therefore, it must mean create. So if we're going to read this, I think just as the Hebrew said, what does Eve say? She says, I created a person with God. Hold that for a moment. She calls him Cain, Kaniti ish et Adonai. Now the Hebrew word et can mean the accusative in Hebrew, which means performing action upon something. But in the Bible, the word et can mean with. I created a human being with God. Now, think about this for a moment. The idea that from her perspective, when the human beings has sexual intercourse with her, that does not make her pregnant, or it makes her pregnant only in an ancillary way. From her perspective, it is Adonai with whom she created Cain. So from her perspective, it makes her the mother of all life. That's why I think Genesis chapter 3, verse 20 actually goes here. She's the mother of life with God, and Ha-Adam has a very, very secondary role. Now, this gives us a whole different perspective on Cain, because Cain sees himself as not the son of Adam, but the son of God. The son of God and Chava, the son of God and life. Now, it's very interesting for me that of all the studies in Christianity of the Hebrew Bible, this is never mentioned as a prefiguration of Mary bearing Jesus with the help of God, not her husband Joseph, for good reason. Because Cain cannot be a prefiguration of Jesus because, of course, Cain not only is the first human being, firstborn human being, he's the first human being to commit murder. So is there a connection between Chava, Eve saying, I created a person with God, and that person having such a strong sense of, I'll go ahead and call it entitlement, using our terminology today, that he couldn't stand it, that when his younger brother, Hevel, which means emptiness, futility, and vanity, outdoes him in seeking God's favor. So this is why my last word here is, I think it's well when we tell these stories, at least to ourselves, not to try to do it with everybody else, because no one will actually be able to follow what we're saying, not to call Adam, Adam, but to call Adam the human being, call Chava mother of life, call Cain created by God, and call Hevel futility. When you start seeing these words not as names, but as the Hebrew, what their meaning in Hebrew, we start to see profound mythological dimensions in them, and we'll reconstruct the narrative using what I'll call the Hebrew meanings of the words, not in the English where we just give them a name, but actually the Hebrew meanings that the names suggest. And we'll put all this together another time. This concludes my 10 minutes of Judaism 101.